With each passing day, we get towards the creme de la creme of the year regards to turf and touchdowns. We get towards the NFL season starting. The Breeders' Cup is also not too far away. I know we're counting down days for summer, Tom, but it's getting towards the exciting part of the year for us.
Yeah, it really is. We've got some of these mid-year kind of trials for the three-year-olds as we face elder horses towards the end of the year. We're moving towards the Travers. We're moving towards some big races at Saratoga towards the end of the summer, and then it'll be Keeneland and the Breeders' Cup, as you've talked about. And we don't need to mention the NFL again. We know it's just a matter of weeks away now. I'm extremely pumped.
We're getting there. We are getting there. But one step, one day at a time. We'll go for the Jim Dandy first because we are not far away. We're even closer towards the Jim Dandy. That is this weekend over at Saratoga, where the podcast favourite Sovereignty returns on track. He didn't go towards the Haskell. Journalism went there. He managed to win last week. I was underwhelmed, Tom, with journalism, but he got the job done. I like seeing him guts it out even when things don't go his way.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't break very well. He kind of half stumbled or hopped at the start. I'm not quite sure which one. I have to watch the start again, but it didn't go to plan anyway. Umberto then asked him for some pace, and he didn't really show anything out of the gate. So he was further back than ideal. He looked like he was in trouble down the back, but journalism just pulls it out of the fire every single time he races. It was inevitable that he was going to run down Goscar and goal oriented in the straight, and he managed to do so. He's a very good 3-year-old. I think a better 3-year-old runs this week.
Yeah, the Sovereignty is. I mean, for all we know, unless something changes in the second half of the year, he's the best 3-year-old around, full stop. I know Bookham Dano, obviously put in a big performance last week, obviously talking to 5-year-olds, but we know at Saratoga that you can put in massive, massive performances. That's historically true as well. By the way, I don't know if we've mentioned it, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, but we're getting there. We're at 920 at the moment, Tom, so 80 more to go.
Come on, guys, help us out. We wanted to do it by the start of the NFL season. That's just around 6 to 7 weeks away now. Hopefully, we can get a fair few more of the chunk that we need to get up to 1,000. Please just click that subscribe button down below. It takes you 1 second. It costs you nothing. It means you don't miss out on any of our content. Why wouldn't you click the button? Help us out.
Exactly. And if you're sitting there at home thinking, I'm already subscribed, well, I can't subscribe. But if you're sitting there thinking, I know 80 people, go tell them. Go tell all 80 and get them to all subscribe. Then we can literally do it in one fell swoop. That would be fantastic. But thank you to everyone who has subscribed. Click the ring bell down there below. We've got some exciting stuff coming up on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast in the coming weeks, including the Jim Dandy, where we'll do the international market first. Sovereignty is 4-9 on the international market, 9-2 Baeza. These are best prices as well because two firms have priced it up. Moplex is 10-1, Sandman is 10-1, and Hill Road is 25-1 outsider of the field. Honestly, Tom, not a great deal to complain about with that.
I suppose, but is Hill Road actually the worst of these five? I think that's the one thing I would argue in here.
Yeah.
I don't really see him as a 25-1 shot. Actually, I would have him as a shorter price than the likes of Moplex. But yeah, that's the only thing that I would really moan about in here. Sovereignty is your overwhelming favourite, and for good reason.
Yeah, he was the one that I was like, well, he should be maybe 10-1. But at the same time, I don't want to back him. So it doesn't really affect a great deal. From a pace perspective, we've got Moplex in here, who's 10-1. He's the obvious pace angle and most likely will be going forward.
Yeah, the pace I think is an interesting dynamic in this race, and potentially the most fascinating thing we're going to talk about. Albeit when it comes to selections, maybe people will disagree about that. But yeah, I think the pace is fascinating. In most of these 3-year-old races throughout the season so far, there have been bigger fields, there have been strong paces. Okay, that didn't necessarily happen in the Belmont as such. They went solid fractions, but not strong up top, and it was a relatively small field. But in all other events, we've seen kind of the same setup. This race, we're not going to. Only 5 runners, only one speed horse, which is Moplex, and he isn't an out-and-out burn-up front runner. He's a horse that has tactical speed and wants to be forwardly placed, but he doesn't necessarily need to be on the front. So it's an interesting dynamic. I'm going to throw a curveball here. I think Baeza is going to be ridden prominently, and I wouldn't be surprised if from gate one they tried to push Moplex in the early stages.
Totally agree. Totally. To be fair, we've said this for a little while now. We said it in the Belmont. Your only chance to actually win the race is to go forward. And they took him back. He sat 6th of 8. Yes, not last, but he was with Hill Road. He was making the move at the same time as Hill Road. Honestly, Baeza is just not a good enough closer to compete with Sovereignty and journalism. There's no shame in that whatsoever. So try something different, mix things up. I completely agree. I like the jockey change as well. I know not many people would be high fiving folk about Flavion Pratt switching to Hector Berrios. when smaller riders, and with respect to Hector Berrios, he's a very talented rider, but when smaller riders take over from a bigger rider, especially ones that have ridden in the past, maybe it's because they're going to be a little braver and say, screw it, let's just go forward and ride him how I want to. I think Baeza might go forward in this spot. However, we'll go sort of through the run through. We'll start with Sovereignty because he deserves to be the one that we start with. He was wonderful for us in the Kentucky Derby. He's been absolutely fantastic ever since. Have you seen people on social media trying to peddle this narrative that Sovereignty doesn't run enough and he's not a champion? But journalism is sort of the hardened horse because he went to the Grade One Haskell. It's like, well, yeah, but if Sovereignty was there, he might have come here instead. Like, what are you saying?
It's crazy. Yeah, people are just always willing to put down people who are exceeding. By people, you can kind of substitute that with horses. I feel like even the mighty Frankel, people were trying to take him on in certain races back in the day. It would have been the case with American Pharaoh and other US greats prior to that. It just always feels like someone wants to be the smart guy by putting down someone that is doing really well. And Sovereignty, I don't feel like has shirked any challenges apart from the Preakness, but he came out of the Kentucky Derby with a minor problem. He had a cut on his leg. And okay, it was 2 weeks later. Belmont didn't want to run the horse. It was the right decision. He turned up in the Belmont. He was fresh and he produced an excellent display. He didn't run in the Haskell because he's situated in Saratoga and they're kind of prepping him towards the Travers. Why would they go towards the Haskell to take on journalism rather than taking the Jim Dandy, which is the perfect prep? And actually, I think journalism shirked Sovereignty by not running in the Jim Dandy. This is the Saratoga feature. I understand the Haskell's a grade 1 and the Jim Dandy's a grade 2, but this is the race that is often used as the prep for the Travers. So, yeah, I don't get that. People are always looking to power down a horse. There is nothing you can really say against Sovereignty so far in his career. He has been excellent. Even from his first 2 or 3 starts as a 2-year-old, I know he won the Street Sense on his third start, but he lost on his first 2. There were clear signs that this horse had so much talent. He was just a little bit raw and immature. This year, basically faultless. He lost 1 race at Gulfstream, a track that definitely didn't suit him, and he still ran pretty well in that spot. Last time in the Belmont, he showed natural tactical speed, which he hadn't shown prior. He sat a lot closer to the pace, which would definitely help him for this assignment. And I love how he's been working. Now, the only negative you could say, apart from his price, is that potentially he's going to get stuck in a pocket in this race. But I think this horse has more than enough talent to extricate himself and beat these horses, regardless of how fast they go up top.
Yeah, I mean, we're always guilty in racing of coming out with the phrase of, well, if so and so trainer thinks this is best for the horse, then who am I to judge and whatever. And yeah, a lot of the time, maybe people might try and second guess trainers. If Bill Mott's got a target, that's a trainer I'm not second guessing. Bill Mott is an absolute genius at working towards a race, whether it's the Travers in the near future, whether it's the Classic at the back end of the year. If Bill Mott called me up with the Kentucky Derby winner and said, look, I don't think we want to go for the Preakness, as an owner of it, yeah, all right, we're not going to the Preakness then. Well, where are we going to go instead? It just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't understand why anyone would be crabbing the horse. It's not like he's turned up once this year in the Derby, missed the Preakness, missed the Belmont, and is now going for some like mid-season target and then the Classic, e.g., 3 races throughout the spring to the winter. He's running relatively often. I don't understand this whole narrative on socials. You got to stop it, guys.
Yeah, Tom says stop. Tom says stop. You maybe stop. He's run 4 times this year. Look, it's enough for me. Sovereignty is an absolute superstar. He's in the best hands possible as well. I mean, Baeza hasn't been that far behind in anything that Sovereignty's done this year. He was third in the Derby. He was third in the Belmont. We saw that he was very good over in California. He was obviously second in the Santa Anita Derby. We both think that he's going to change up tactics in this spot, and that's kind of what we said. Doing the same thing over and over again. That's the one of the biggest signs of madness, or whatever the famous quote is. Change things up. Do something different. You're not going to beat Sovereignty as a closer. However, the one time Sovereignty's been beaten this year, he got beat by a horse who got first run on him. Maybe that's Baeza here.
Well, I think Baeza has to go forward. I don't see why they wouldn't adopt those tactics. If you look at pace projectors over in the US, they will say that Moplex is the only front runner in here, but it seems to me like Baeza has to push up, especially from the inside post. If they don't, then he won't win because he's not going to backrun Sovereignty. We've seen this numerous times this year, and actually, even when he's in front of Sovereignty in the straight, Sovereignty blows on by. So I don't think those tactics would work. If they're going for second place, that's probably what they should do. But if they're trying to win this race, which I think would be the plan, it is a Jim Dandy after all, then they have to push forward and try something new to beat Sovereignty. He's a very good horse, Baeza. He's done nothing wrong since switching to dirt. His efforts in the Kentucky Derby was solid. The Belmont's solid. I just don't think he's good enough to beat Sovereignty, regardless of tactics. But he's quite clearly the second best horse in this race on what we've seen so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And the market dictates that. Look, he's 9-2, he's 7-2 in a place. I spoke to Harlan Malta a while ago, who runs the Iron Horse syndicate, Bucharest Stallions, and pretty much everything else now in New York. He was talking about Get Smoking a while ago when I can't remember who it was that rode him prior to Fernando de la Cruz getting back on board. But he basically said none of the big jockeys would listen to us and just go as fast as you can early on. So we put Fernando on and said, Fernando, just go hard, just really go. And he did it, and he listened, and Get Smoking's turned into one of the better turf horses of the last 3 years over in the US. I think that's Hector Berrios here. Hector Berrios has ridden this horse on 3 occasions. He sat third of 6 when he followed home Rodriguez in a maiden special weight. He sat second, just off the coattails of the leaders, when he managed to win his maiden special weight. And then in the Santa Anita Derby, I thought he gave him a great ride to get journalism in at least a bit of trouble at one point. But again, he sat close to the pace. That's the only way Hector Berrios knows how to ride this horse. John Sheriff has, I feel anyway, gone to him, come over, do what you do on Baeza. I think the early sort of tactics, regards to Baeza, Tom, is just be in front of Sovereignty.
Yeah, for sure. But I think he needs to be in front overall to actually win this race. And actually, even if he's leading this field, I don't think he'll beat Sovereignty anyway. But I do like the idea of new tactics. You know, this
Mm.
horse needs something to win this race. He can't just turn up and produce what he's done in the past. It won't work. So with horses, you've always got to try and find a different angle, whether a trainer or even just a punter. And I think with Baeza, the only angle here that will suffice is going forward.
Yeah, I completely agree. If you're with Baeza and you come out of the stalls and you're sat fourth or fifth or last, rip your ticket up. You're not going to be winning. But Baeza is a fascinating part of this contest. But again, this is a race that does have a touch of depth in here. I mean, Sandman, he's not the horse that we were hoping he was going to be. He went towards the Preakness. He didn't run too badly, albeit he had a clear run into that contest, whereas journalism didn't, and he still couldn't even get past Gosga. The form was boosted, I guess, last week in the Haskell, but at the same time, we need new levels here.
Yeah, we do. He's just a proper grade 2 horse, isn't he, Sandman? A really good grade 2 horse. When he goes up to grade 1 company, he generally falls short. Now, he did win the Arkansas Derby, which is a grade 1, but that was a pretty weak field. I think Cornucopium was in that race for Baffert, and he was just terrible, and he was the favourite. The ride was awful, of course, but he didn't display his best anyway, and Sandman took advantage. But it was a weak field generally. I thought his run in the Kentucky Derby was fine. He was too far back. He's not as good as Sovereignty. He's not as good as journalism. He's not as good as Baeza generally, but he ran home okay. And then in the Belmont, I thought he ran pretty promisingly for third as well. He's been working well, but there are two additions to Sandman, which is why I think he might perform slightly better in this race. One, Jose Ortiz is back on board. Jose is riding fantastically, has done for the last year basically, and I think having him back is a big positive. And two, they're fitting blinkers. Not quite sure what the aim of that is. Obviously, it's a small field. Usually, when a trainer fits blinkers, they want the horse to be more productive early, maybe closer to the speed. That seems unlikely given the pace scenario here and the fact there's only 5 runners. I expect him to be towards the back early, but maybe they're thinking he's not putting it all in the home straight and blinkers will really gear him up. So I think that's interesting, and he's a fascinating contender in this spot.
Yeah, honestly, my first thought when Blinkers went on was, are they going to try and go forward with him? Now, he's not shown anywhere near enough speed to try and do that in the past, but his works have been fine. I mean, 59 and 2 over 5 furlongs back on the 5th of July. He's put in some fairly fast works. If they were able to do that, suddenly Sandman becomes a whole lot more interesting. But at the same time, it's a lovely idea, but it's just that. It's an idea, and he's not shown us that he can do it, so why would I expect him to do it?
Yeah, exactly. And if he was on the front end, then I would actually think he's got a very limited chance of winning because when you saw him in the Arkansas Derby, when he hit the front, he was hanging left, he was hanging right. He's not a horse that knows what to do when he's in the lead. And I just don't see those tactics as being the right call. But maybe they're trying to liven him up in the early part to mean he's not too far back. And if that's the case, we know how strong he is over the trip. So he should run home well.
Absolutely. As will Hill Road. I bet you, Tom, after a furlong, Hill Road is last.
I would agree with that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. Albeit, to be fair, he normally has one behind him, but in a field like this, I don't know.
By the way, talking about bets, Did you watch the race last week? We had a bet, didn't we, with some of the outsiders? We had a
Oh
match bet.
shoot! How did that go?
Yeah, well, yours was last, so I feel like you
Right.
need us to do a forfeit. Yeah.
I'm gonna have a swig of tea.
I'll gear up a forfeit for next week. Don't you
That was
worry.
gross. I can't believe I did that. Right, moving on. So Hill Road, he was he was good in the Peter Pan when it was a grade three. Quite
Yeah.
frankly, it looked a race that might have been okay at the time, but it was a grade three. He ran in the Belmont, totally outclassed. Um, he did make a slight move into the contest. He had the run stopped at the back end of the back straight. At the same time, though, there's nothing in his form that would suggest that he's up to winning or even finishing second in this.
No, he's an okay horse, isn't he? And the fact that Chad Brown's keeping him at Saratoga suggests that maybe he thinks he's capable of going close. I don't really know. He'll be plugging on, won't he? And if they do get racing a little bit early, not saying they're going to go fast pace, but if the pace starts increasing down the back and the likes of Moplex, Baeza maybe, Jewel off the top end, then he could pick up one or two of these horses late in the day. But otherwise, I don't see how he plays a major role in this spot. I think he should be about 10-1, about the same price as Moplex, purely because he's run okay in some of the top 3-year-old races, and Moplex hasn't actually run in any of those yet. But yeah, I don't see him as a major winning player, that's for sure.
No, totally agree. And honestly, the same for Moplex. If you're not, I wouldn't say new, but if you're not a regular to American racing, if you just enjoy our previews, that's fantastic. Welcome aboard. But Moplex on bare speed figures, he got a 96 last time for winning the Ohio Derby. He ran to 96. Let's look at Baeza, who last time around the Belmont ran to 100. The numbers aren't that interchangeable moving forward, especially into Saratoga. The Baeza run was far, far better than Moplex. But in fairness, we said about Moplex on the podcast for the Ohio Derby. Neither of us can have this horse, and he made us both look silly. So he's improving at least.
Yeah, he's improving. He's a really classy New York bred, and I think the future with him lies in that kind of sphere. And that's not to say he can't do it in open company, but I don't think he's anywhere near the quality of sovereignty journalism by Azer, etc. The Bayshore win was impressive. The Ohio Derby win was impressive. They're tilting at windmills now. I don't mind that at all. Why not go for that, a race like the Jim Dandy on a track that he's performed well before? But it just feels unlikely. The one thing you can say about Moplex in this spot is that he's got everything to suit. He's got course form. He's in great form. He's the only proper out and out front runner in this contest. The horse that you know is definitely going to go forward. So what more could they want? I just don't think he's good enough. And to be honest with you, I think he might finish last.
Yeah, he might give you a nice run in that he might lead them turning for home,
Yeah.
but I think that'll be it basically for Moplex. But love the fact that he's here. Well done to Connections for turning up, and I really hope he runs well because he's a really fun horse for Connections to have. However, we've done the hard yards. We've gone through the entirety of the field. Let's go through selections. Tom, I'll let you go first.
Well, last week it paid to be with the horse that was going to win, right? Everyone knew that journalism was the best horse in the race.
How'd your forecast go?
About as well as your single, I think.
So you lost on the race as well, yeah?
Well, not for purposes of the podcast. They put up the
What?
winner. Most people bet the winner.
Yeah, I
No?
know, but they bet the winner that was odds on, right? And then they did the forecast as well that you also put up on the little graphic.
Right, we need to get a kind of poll from the viewers. Did you bet the forecast last week, or did you just bet journalism? I would be fascinated to see. I think most people would have just bet the likely winner of the race, but obviously for
Huh?
our benefit, we're not just going to put up a short price, are we? If you're going to put up a short price, you've got to put something else as well that provides a little bit of value. So I'm going to do the same this week,
You did last week. You did put up a short price one last week, so.
and the forecast for a bit of value.
Oh, so
I
this
actually
this week you're going to put up the short price favourite, right?
Of course, and the horse is going to win the race. I mean, you can continue putting up losers. That's absolutely fine by me. I'll just put up the winners and keep our podcast going. So yeah, I do think that Sovereignty will win this race. He's the best horse. He's a short price, but he deserves to be. He's probably the best 3-year-old I've seen in the last 10 to 15 years, and I think he's going to win this, win the Travers, go towards the Classic, and be the horse to beat. In the Classic, he may come up against a couple of nice older horses, but until then, I don't really see him losing. So, Sovereignty for me, I think he'll win this race regardless of the pace setup, providing he breaks on terms. Forecast purposes, Baeza's the obvious one to finish second behind him, but I'm going to go for Sandman. I think the blinkers are interesting. Jose Ortiz, as I say, is a big positive. He's riding Saratoga as well as any. I was actually quite surprised that Jose is not leading the standings at Saratoga.
Mm-hmm.
He is currently second behind Irad. But both of them are clear of the remainder. And I just think maybe the blinkers will elicit some improvement out of him, and he'll be the one that is staying on powerfully. If they ride Baeza close to the speed and they get racing early, him and Moplex, then Sandman's going to have a lot more left than Baeza for the home straight kick. So I'll take Sovereignty to beat Sandman, but my main play is obviously Sovereignty to win.
Yeah, Sovereignty leads the market, but Sandman would give you at least a little bit of value on a grander spectrum. That conversation myself and Tom had, where he was just trying to slag me off and it wasn't working, that's an insight into our outside life when one of us just poops the bed on a podcast and things don't happen. But it's fine. You keep on putting up the shorties. I'm going to go Baeza. I think at the prices, this is the one time that you can try and back Baeza against one of the big guns. I want to say one of the big guns, I mean Sovereignty or Journalism. If Hector Berrios does what I and Tom think he's going to, he might just be able to get first run on Sovereignty. Every single time he's run against, well, I say every single, both times he's run against Sovereignty, he's not necessarily been losing ground at the line. It's just the sense that Sovereignty can close better, and that's fine. Sovereignty is a better horse than Baeza. But sit Baeza second, put him in the lead, see what happens, Hector Berrios. That's the only way you're going to possibly win this race. I think the golfing class between the top two and the rest, or the other three, I think it's quite a vast gulf. I don't really see any reason why the others would get involved unless Moplex and Baeza maybe went too hard and they took each other on and rather shot each other in the foot. But I'm going to say something that Tom's going to hate here as well. Currently, Baeza is 9-2. You get a quarter the odds for each way prices. If there's something else on the weekend that you like, just chuck Baeza in as an each way double. It will give you a little bit of value going forward and just add a bit more onto the place part of your bet. I'm not putting them up each way on the podcast, but at 9-2 Baeza, I'm fine with that.
I don't like it. I really don't like it. And actually, I would prefer if you put him up each way because I feel like he's more likely to finish second than win, obviously. And therefore, you're basically losing your win part of this bet. Do you actually think he can beat Sovereignty?
In this one race, yes.
What percentage chance do you think he has of winning this spot?
Okay. It depends. If he goes forward...
Well, no, I just want your actual answer here.
All right, okay. In the world of not knowing what Hector Berrios is going to do, probably about 15 to 20%.
Okay, so that is an answer that basically suggests that the price is fair but not good value because 18% and 9-2. So
yeah, 9-2 is right. I think that if he, I mean, one firm out there is 7-2. I would be happy leaving that. But at 9-2, you can take the each way price, and you would get a little bit of money back, and you'd make £1 or so, or whatever on your each way bet. And also, what I've done there, Tom, put Baeza up win only. But if he does finish second, I'll be like, well, I did mention him each way, so...
No, you're not having that. You've quite clearly said, and I'm going to get our editor Joe to clip it, I'm not going to put him up each way for the podcast, but... So, you're not having that.
And I'm going to get Editor Joe to clip up Tom slagging off Baeza a moment ago when Baeza wins by 10, which probably won't happen. But that is the Turf and Touchdowns podcast for this week. We are still on the road to 1,000. We are 80 subscribers away from 1,000. We've got so many exciting things coming up in the podcast in the next few weeks and months. So please do subscribe, hit the ring notification down below. Leave a comment with who you think will win the Jim Dandy as well. And also let us know. Did you follow Tom in with the forecast and journalism last week? We'd like to know. But Tom, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, it's been good fun. And next week we're looking at the Whitney, so it's a more competitive race. We have talked about two short price favourites over the last 2 weeks, but they have been the best races of the week and also featuring the best horses. So I'm sure you guys can understand that. There is the Bing Crosby this week at Del Mar, but it's just not the best contest. And at the time of recording on Wednesday, there are no entries, so we can't do that. But yeah, the Whitney next week should be fun. And maybe we'll do an NFL podcast as well. We have the NFC to look at.
Yes, we do. I think it'll be fun talking about a race where you have no idea who's running. It'll make it more impressive if you get the winner.
I'm sure I'm more likely to get the winner based on this Baeza pick from you.
Very rude. Right. That's enough. I'm going to go give Tom a telling off. Thank you very much for listening to the Turf and Touchdowns podcast this week. We look forward to seeing you twice next week with NFL and horse racing action. Until then, stay safe. Look after one another. Goodbye.